The Siren Song of Defeat. Amberlynn Reid once again greets us from the battlefield of her own making, waving the white flag mid-sentence, assuring us she's still totally at war. The video is titled, "I Feel So Defeated," as if that sentiment isn't embroidered on every pillow in her home. Let's dissect this elegant display of surrender masquerading as effort, shall we? We will, of course, all be wearing black in mourning for the calorie counts that never stood a chance. This is just another episode of Amberlynn Reid versus basic science, where reality is merely a suggestion and logic is something that happens to other people. We open with Amberlynn dramatically late to her weigh-in because, of course, the crushing defeat of the scale can wait. But fret not, before we even glimpse the numbers, or lack thereof, we're treated to her annual dissertation on sodium content and McNugget psychology. She seems to believe that nutritional hypocrisy is the cardinal sin of the internet, as if anyone other than her is starring in a YouTube series called I Feel So Defeated 5 episodes in. She consults ChatGPT like it's an oracle descended from Mount Olympus. She puts more faith in ChatGPT than all the medical professionals she's ever seen, because this way she can gleefully cherry-pick the parts that allow her to claim, "See, I've been saying this all along." Darling, if you even followed a fragment of what you've always said, we wouldn't be here. Amberlynn's calorie needs, as ordained by the great ChatGPT, are gospel, until of course they aren't. Because let's remember, she is the ultimate expert on her body. Meanwhile, her body's out there waving a white flag, crying out for someone else to take over operations. She concludes this bit by clapping back at the imaginary masses who think she needs 10,000 calories to maintain her weight. Amber, no one cares how much you need to maintain. We care that 5 weigh-ins in, you're still spinning on a hamster wheel. She goes head first into the everyone's fat-phobic but me segment of the weigh-in spectacle. Amberlynn, our champion of deflection, gracefully pirouettes around any accountability by taking a simple question about her new friend and turning it into an all-out assault on the audience for their so-called biases. And she talks of goalpost moving. Amber, you built the stadium. You've been breadcrumbing this friend, tantalising us with cryptic mentions and faint voices, and now you recoil in horror when we ask for proof that she exists beyond your apartment walls. And now that we have heard something vaguely resembling another human being, we're accused of fat phobia for daring to wonder if this elusive companion just might be someone hired to help her function at £500. Let's be clear. The only reason anyone speculates about a caretaker is because she's built her entire persona on needing help with basic life functions. She's the one who gets poetic about how monumental it is that she can take out her own trash. She is the one who makes daily activities sound like feats of superhuman strength. But when someone suggests she might have assistance, no, that's fat phobia. No, it's called logical deduction. But sure, let's pivot again to the grand proclamation that this friend will never be on camera. It's the age-old Amberlynn Reid defense. If I say no one will ever meet them, then no one can prove they aren't real. It's a brilliant tactic. But carry on, Amber. The audience may have grown tired of the circus, but she's still determined to keep juggling those flaming pins of denial. We arrive at the quarterly confessional, where she presents her failures as though they're unforeseen tragedies and not the entirely predictable result of her doing nothing to change. She set one goal, to follow a meal plan 5 out of 7 days. A simple, measurable task. And did she succeed? Of course not. She admits it casually, like forgetting to water a plant, as though she isn't in a mortal battle with her own body for survival. And the veggie plate fantasy? That goes by the wayside too. Like every other plan before it, it just joins the graveyard of intentions she was never going to honour. And now she introduces us to her latest grand aspiration, to beat the feeling of defeat. I must say, it's an impressive feat of mental gymnastics to make the goal itself an intangible concept. She's making sure that no matter how little she achieves, she can still declare some vague emotional victory. Bravo, Amberlynn. A goal without form, substance, or accountability. It's like an art form. And as for the water bottle upgrade, from 2 to 3. Are we supposed to applaud this? She's treating hydration like it's climbing Everest. 2 bottles to 3. The bar isn't just on the floor. It's 6 feet under and she's still tripping over it. But the cycle continues. Amberlynn's weekly saga of calamity where personal responsibility packs its bags and leaves the chat entirely. She gives us a review of her week, which, as always, begins with the glowing self-congratulation. She's eating in moderation, balancing her unhealthy choices with fruits and vegetables, as if a sprinkle of raspberries absolves the sins of fast food. But, alas, as she overeats, a polite euphemism, she consumes the most horrific foods. She casually writes it off, because, perfection is impossible. It's such a comforting excuse when your very existence hinges on life or death choices. But wait, enter this week's villain, the weather. The flood, the drama, the inevitable infection. Because of course, Amberlynn wades into murky floodwaters like she's trekking through the Amazon, and despite her own acknowledgement of her delicate health issues, she's shocked, simply shocked, that it led to cellulitis. She recounts her 2 versions of cellulitis like she's narrating a tragic saga. One where she loses weight from the trauma, how convenient, and one where she just feels general malaise. This time, it's the latter. But don't worry, she still manages to lament the swelling-induced weight gain, because even when it isn't her fault, she still needs to frame it as a personal tragedy. The scale, that merciless tyrant, dares to reflect the water retention she knew was coming. And here we are again. Amberlynn, defeated, uninspired, adrift in a sea of swelling, but still talking about future plans to switch things up. Plans that, no doubt, will dissolve into nothingness like all the others. She says she feels terrible, but she never changes. And then, the grand finale, the weigh-in that doesn't count. 5:17 last week, 5:21 this week. But don't worry, it's not real weight. This is phantom weight. Imaginary numbers conjured by the wicked sorcery of fluid retention. Pay no mind to the actual scale, because Amberlynn has decreed it invalid. She shrugs it off with the familiar refrain of "I just want to feel better," and promises to keep taking her antibiotics, as though this moment of defeat will miraculously lead to some groundbreaking shift in behaviour. It won't. What Amberlynn truly excels at is making sure that nothing is ever her fault. The weight gain? Not her fault. The stagnation in her health? Not her fault. The same recycled plans and promises that never manifest? You guessed it, not her fault. Yet again, she signs off with hollow platitudes about pushing forward and setting goals that we all know are as flimsy as her willpower. The entire weigh-in, according to her, was pointless. And honestly, I couldn't have said it better myself. She carries on like she's in a mild fitness slump before bikini season. Not a woman in her mid-30s tipping over 520 pounds, with a documented history of medical crises, morbid obesity, and every single risk factor for early death short of playing chicken on the motorway. This isn't just being off track for a few days. This is a woman whose body is screaming for help. Her organs are hanging on by threads and she's just romanticizing Lego sets and olives. She's completely lost the plot. Every setback is brushed off with "I'll push forward," yet she never moves. She stagnates and festers in the fantasy that she has infinite time and the consequences can be deferred indefinitely. But they can't. There is no time left to feel it out or reassess later. This is a medical emergency in slow motion. And she sells it to the audience as resilience, as if surviving her own neglect is something to be proud of. What we're watching isn't strength. It's a prolonged, delusional stall-out. She's not just a few weeks away from success. She is literally teetering on an edge, and she's treating it like a quirky character arc. This isn't a redemption story. It is a tragedy, and she's the only one writing it, in crayon. And I think the cruelest irony, the one that gnaws at all our minds, is that she probably knows. She must know that she's dying. She's not oblivious to the stakes. She's choosing to play this game of denial. She can mask it in quirky vlogs, candle hauls, and Lego builds, anything to keep from confronting the truth. That her life is ending. But here's the kicker. The longer she delays, the harder it's going to be. Her window for change is narrowing. Not just metaphorically, but biologically. The damage being done at her size isn't something you can just reverse with a new meal plan. Her body is under siege, constantly, and every day she spends in this state is just pushing her further into irreversible territory. The heart can only carry the weight of denial for so long. The kidneys, the liver, the lymphatic system, they don't care how many TikToks she makes or how many dresses she tries on. They will fail. And she's just narrating her own downfall like it's a sitcom. I gained this week because of swelling. I feel defeated, but I'll keep pushing. Push where? Toward what? This isn't just a rough patch. This is a death spiral. And I'm afraid that she won't truly understand that until her body makes the decision for her. And on that day, she won't get to come back.